Hello, Horror Freaks United. Today I'm here to start a discussion about would you consider the Predator series a horror series? Now, I know Predator is a sci-fi series, but to be honest, when I put movies in the genres, I don't just put them in one category. Like Nightmare on Elm Street, just horror, and Predator, just sci-fi. I put them in several categories. Nightmare on Elm Street would also be part of the sci-fi genre, and Predator, I believe, would also be part of the horror genre, along with the action genre. Because when you think about horror films, if you think about it, the majority of horror films, including slashers, paranormal, monster films, the majority of them are also considered sci-fi films. And about half of sci-fi films are also horror films. And the other half, the other 50%, are sci-fi films like Star Wars, Star Trek, and all that fantasy stuff. And the other percent is part of the horror genre in some way or another. And if you think about it, the original Predator film itself is kind of set up like a horror film. If you think back to your original 80s horror films, they're pretty much set up in the same way, where there's a bunch of teens living their everyday average life. Then a killer comes in and kills one of their friends. And at first they're worried and everything, but then they move on with their lives and they usually go to a party or something. And then the killer strikes there and kills them all. Now, not all horror films are that way. A lot of the newer ones go their own ways, but a lot of the older ones, they tweak the same thing. Like Prom Night's pretty much the same way. They accidentally kill a girl, and 6 years later they go to the prom. They get these creepy phone calls, but they still continue on to the prom. Then the killer starts picking them off one by one. Well, in the original Predator film, it takes place with a bunch of military agents, or whatever you want to call them, sent in to do a job in South America. And where there would be that kill that strikes on them, they find a bunch of dead bodies. And then they move on, and where the teens would go to a party, these people find people that they were supposed to find. Like, they were supposed to be rescuing these hostages, but they were all dead, so they go and shoot up the place. And then from then on, the Predator, the hunter, picks them off one by one, to where it's just Schwarzenegger's character left. And then he fights to the death with the creature. And then when it's about to die, he blows himself up. And also, if you think about the concept of the film, an alien creature that comes from another planet just to hunt us goes hand in hand with the horror and sci-fi genre. So yes, I would consider Predator a horror film if you're a fan of it, but it is also a sci-fi film. But anyways, I would appreciate if you made a video response. Tell me what you think about the Predator series being part of the horror genre. Tell me if you consider it horror. Tell me if you consider it sci-fi, or if you consider it both. I consider it both. I actually considered it a horror, sci-fi, and an action film. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger was the freaking star of the film, so it has to be an action film. But tell me what you think. You can do a video response. And you could just put down in the comments, but I think a video response would be better, because you can explain more in depth of what you're thinking. But tell me what you guys think. See you next time.